the Pendleton Act, or how to use civil service reform to fight corruption and eat the rich. A series of ramblings by me, Owen Taylor. When I feel sad, I usually try and cheer myself up by reminding myself how much worse life could be. If I accidentally slam my hand into a car door like an oaf, I'll remember the time my brother played tug-of-war with their dog on the stairs, lost, and broke his arm. If I'm stressed from work, I'll take solace in the fact that I haven't perished in a workplace incident. Yet. If the existential dread of living in a country controlled by soulless billionaires as the poor get poorer finally starts to eat away at my hope for the future, I'll remember that at least we aren't living in the spoil system. Yes, the dreaded spoil system. As jobs in the United States government could be conceivably given to anybody, this created an ecosystem of corruption where anyone elected into power could suddenly pimp out the rest of the government with whomever they wanted, regardless of their qualifications. This concept originates with the Jackson administration, although it only started to be recognized as a serious threat to our democracy by the late 1860s. While it would have been solved by James A. Garfield due to a case of the Mondays, it was instead completed by Chester A. Arthur with the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act in 1883. And let me tell you about this. The Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act may be the single most important event in maintaining democracy since the Revolutionary War. I mean that too. With the corruption present due to the spoil system, it was necessary to enact some sort of change, and the Pendleton Act did exactly that by enacting a merit system. Instead of allowing politicians to install whomever they pleased, the Pendleton Act required government employees to pass incredibly competitive exams to prove that they would be qualified for the job. Your old buddy Joe couldn't suddenly become the head of the postal office simply because he's a nice guy who deserves a chance. He's legally unable to get the job without proving competence. Let me remind you of how extreme the spoil system was before this. My example of the postal office being a great place for nepotism was not picked from nowhere. Under the Jackson administration, over 400 postmasters were removed from their positions, and that's only half of the over 900 government employees total that were removed in the same year. This equates to 10% of all government officials, all removed in the beginning of his presidency. I can't stress this enough either, that this is just Jackson 2. It got to the point where James A. Garfield's infamous case of the Mondays / assassination was caused by a man who assumed he was guaranteed an office position because of Garfield's election. Dipping our toes into modern politics, it's absolutely exceptional that we have the Pendleton Act. Many people will claim it's a good thing we have it now because Trump would probably abuse the spoil system, which is true, but let's go back further. What about George Bush? How much worse would the Iraq War would have been if the Secretary of Defense was just his good buddy David? What about Ronald Reagan? If he could place whomever he wanted in charge of police departments, then would police brutality have taken a huge rise in the already dramatically violent war on drugs? Richard Nixon already found ways to be corrupt without the spoil system. We've all heard of Watergate. What else could that man do? Overall, the Pendleton Act was responsible for swiftly removing corruption in 1883 and has championed democracy ever since. While corruption still lurks, it's nowhere near the level it was then, which is pretty rad. I can't include that.